Very warm welcome to all of you to Economic Stand. We are back yet again with the budget expectations. The insights into the budget expectations, what is going to be there in this year's budget, which is of the 2023 and 2024 year. So we had done these sessions previously on our Instagram through our live sessions, and we had covered several sectors covering their expectations to be there in the budget. And this year again, we are back with it so that you get a sense of what is there, what is going to be there in the budget. And for the same, we have Naveen Jacob Thomas with us, who will guide us through this whole sector-wise expectations. And it will be great if you could participate with us in your with your comments and provide us with your feedback so that we keep on improving on our content. So Naveen, could you please enlighten our audience with your words?
Hi, Rianj. Thank you so much for the opportunity. And I'm also really looking forward to how we can create a more interactive session based on the budget. And let's see how interesting it can be further. So, do you have any picks, any particular picks like you want to start with?
Yeah, so like I've seen that there has been huge amount of developments going on in the roads and the like the railway sector, which you can see that it is clearly in the news all the time. So I guess this year also there is going to be so much of expectations from the industry side that there should be so much of budget allocation towards these sectors. So considering that, Naveen, I have also the first question for you, which could give the audience a very good insight of these expectations for this particular sector, road savings, say for example transportation in a way. So the question is, what does the outlook on roads and railways look like, and can we get more optimistic from the earlier years or from the last year? What is your take on that?
When we start with roads and railways, we also know that there's another sector very closely in touch with this. It's the automobile sector. If we want to get more optimistic, then I will begin slightly on the automobiles and then I'll slowly get on to roads and railways. So will that do? Okay. I
Definitely,
assume it's a go. I'll do it.
definitely, yeah.
So the automobile sector, the advantage that we have is we are the fourth largest market in the whole world with a 222 billion capitalization, which is good because compared to all these years, the way we have approached automobiles with respect to electric vehicles is quite intriguing. And at the same time, it has been a rapid approach, I would say. Like in the last budget, more discussions have come upon setting EV manufacturing plants and also those who are willing to invest in electric vehicles. The FDI norms, like a single clearance is given for all of them, a single window clearance is given for all of them. And given that we have an issue with China in terms of competing, a bigger economy, at the other hand, semiconductors is one large market where a nation could properly strategize in. So we also began with a semiconductor mission. But so far as we have seen is that automobile sector is optimistic because we can see a wide range of income classes. The high income class, middle income, low income classes are all opting for more cars. Be it first hand or the used cars, we can see a huge growth spurt in it. Despite dwindling incomes, as part of a status recognition or something like that, people are more close nowadays to owning a car. It's now become a personal symbol. But as far as the sector goes, there are issues of limited success. Limited success is a strategy used when a big plan is introduced and only certain stages are being implemented. And you are not able to reach the full optimization. That is where a limited success happens. And that is the issue where we can take the GST rates, for example. The biggest concern for manufacturers, what they have been telling right now, time and again, is that we have a disproportionate GST structure. We have 5%, 18%, and 28%. on a wide range of automobile parts and other ancillary services. For example, we have 18% tax on lithium ion batteries and raw materials required for EV production. Manufacturers have been requesting time and again with the government that it must be reduced to 5%, because manufacturing sector as a whole has also got hit under this, and they are actually expecting a SOP concession of 5%, because that will do a lot for them. When you reduce it to 5%, it also reduces the cost of export, making the quantifying number of exports more as per time goes. And there are places where we have 28% GST. 28% GST is quite high. In order to be a top market leader, we may have to reduce it to 18%. And there are disputes here and there. Like always, due to the inverted tax regime that we have, it also creates an issue where the end user is actually required to pay a huge sum out of their hands. So the disproportionate tax mechanism of 5%, 18%, and 28% could become a burden on the user. So if it is reduced to 5% initially, that will also help the consumers at the end. And more number of schemes with respect to automobile sector can be brought in under the product link in incentive scheme, PLI scheme. Like for example, hydrogen electrolyzers, etc., could be brought under it, so that issues could be sorted out. And next is the automobile sector is also expecting, future supply chain disruptions to be solved. We have a big issue of logistics. Logistics is very costly in India. Like when a product is manufactured until the point where it is supposed to be marketed, we have an issue like where, time and again, due to multiple vendors being involved, the cost increases. So we need some mechanism, at least a proper regulatory mechanism, just to ensure that supply chain disruptions do not happen again. Semiconductors need a big boost. So if they're added under the PLI scheme, it will be of immense help for them. And the other thing is, if we are seeing there's a small decline, like until the last 6 months, if we take August to January 2023, we see that there's a short decline here and there in the sale of automobiles. This is because due to rise in commodity prices, etc. Like the pre 2020, that is 2019 automobile purchases was high. We are not able to meet that amount of purchases being involved compared to this last 6 months. This is how far the automobile sector goes, but we can be more optimistic about this because there are going to be some amount of concessions, and especially logistics wise, the cost involved, government will surely take a note of it. And that's a welcome move. Next is what we can say is that how can we focus more on 2023's aspect? So as I've said before, a uniform GST can actually help for automobiles. And then they can also do one thing: fossil fuels, like the vehicles that are using fossil fuels can be taxed at a range of 50% of the overall cost of production. In that way, people could be discouraged from using more of fossil fueled vehicles. And at the same time, for electric vehicles, when you're charging 5%, it will kind of shift the focus and give a new spurt of growth for EVs. And we need more export trade agreements. Like my meaning is that we need to have more free trade agreements. I'll give you an example. Like countries like Egypt, Nigeria, Turkey, UAE, and Australia, the specialty is that they do not manufacture any cars. They import a lot of vehicles, from high-end vehicles to the low-end, like the budget-friendly vehicles. They import all of them. So India can actually sign more treaties with these nations, asking for more concessions in terms of India's exports towards them. And at the same time, they can also deal more in rupee. Like now there's a dollar crunch, like a lot of nations are undergoing dollar crunch across many parts of the world, and they're not having enough dollar reserves. And the Russia Ukraine war has its own reasons here too for contributing that. So in this case, we can leverage more by using the rupee. This will be also a welcome move as we consider the 2023 expectations solely for the automobile sector. Now, now let's go for the roads and railways part. When we enter a nation first, what we are noticing is that we'll see how well developed and connected the roads and the railways are. Because roads and railways are in itself a history. Colonization to modernization, roads and railways are there everywhere. You can't ignore it. So your developments will be apparent on those kind of fronts. But as far as it goes, I feel that roads and railways is having a limited success approach here, and limited success in the sense it's not like I have a positive outlook for it. It's like a bit of negative shade is there. The reason is because we have a lot of projects that are staggering around. Like the initial targets set in the 2022 budget, we have not been able to fulfill that yet. So I can actually give you a small data point on it. In 2022 budget, 2022-2023 budget, 2 lakh crores were allotted for the railways. And now in the upcoming budget, it is said that it will at least touch 2.8 lakh crores. A huge investment is being pumped in. But before telling what the huge investment is about, we can take a look at what the 2 lakh crore proposed in 2022 actually turned out to be. So there were a few targets being set. So I'll tell you one of the few targets. One was for roads, there was a 12,200 kilometer stretch of highways to be planned. 12,200 kilometers. As far as December 31, 2022, we have been able to complete 5,300 kilometers, just 5,300 kilometers. So this is not even half the target that was actually proposed. And the funniest aspect is that average rainfall is cited as the reason for the entire delay in constructions. The above average rainfall is cited as the reason. This is what Minister Nitin Gadkari said in the latest interview, like I think on December 20th, if I'm not wrong. Above average rainfall is the only reason why these kind of initiatives are still pending. And remember, this 12,200 stretch of highways, kilometer stretch of highways has to be completed on or before March 31st, 2023. And we are entering the budget session very soon. So the implementation time has been very small and it's next to impossible now. And we can also see that there's a positive outcome in one part, like 4-way, 6-way, 8-way lanes. We have a 4-way, 6-way, 8 lanes project. This has seen a huge improvement, which means there was a target set in 2021 for 1,806 kilometer expansion. But in November 2022 itself, we completed 2,308 kilometers. So that is a huge achievement. The total length we have achieved is 600 at least more. And that's a positive we have to note. And the overall length for all national highway categories is so far 4,766. And this is much lesser than the projections of 5,118 kilometers set in 2021. And we also have a 5-year plan in terms of creating greenfield expressways, access control corridors, etc. by 2027. And the project is still running on. It's like not everything has been completed yet. Compared to this, when we go to railways, we see a slightly different picture. In the railways, we can see that a budget estimate is kept for 2023-2024 is kept at 1.8 lakh crore. This is what the railway ministry has also said. They're expecting a 1.8 lakh crore, not less than this, as per the latest statistics and the requirements that they need for the engagement of railways in a smoother run. This is quite higher than the previous target, at least by 40, by a variation of 40,000. And they have actually proposed this time that they will be laying new tracks, and they are also in the move for creating more Vande Bharat trains. So Vande Bharat is also a core aspect of railways, like in order to provide high class service and at the same time at the shortest speed and time required, Vande Bharat trains, they need more amount of funding for that. And they are looking forward to huge investments with respect to Ahmedabad Mumbai railway corridor, the bullet train project. But what we can see right now is there is a delay for the railways only on one major aspect, that is land acquisition. For railways, land acquisition is not something that ends up in a few cents or an acres. It just spans so long, because along with the railways, we have to build a station. We'll also have to build a separate station for the coaches, defunct coaches, coaches that require advanced repairing and so on. So there are so many things clubbed with railways, and it must all come together in one point. So land acquisition is a problem, and there was a target set, 508 kilometers. 508 kilometers must be achieved no matter what. But so far, by January 1st, 2023, we are able to get a statistics count at 125 kilometers. So it is just 25% of the total expected claims for creating a smoother railway line. And we have also seen that the bullet train project, Ahmedabad Mumbai corridor, it has exceeded its budget, which is also not a good sign, because you have to adjust it within the budget, or there are a lot of leakages which they need to sort out. And there was also one thing we have to see, that the government did allocate money. It's not that the government did not allocate any money. Government allocated 19,102 crores. 19,000 crores. Keep a 19,000 crores as the prox. They actually sanctioned that much amount for emergency usages to solve all leakages within the railways. And they even went on to add 5,000 crores more to the whole list. So it's not that they haven't done anything, they have done it. But as far as, again, the statistics, with whatever little we can club up, we are finding that the budget, 2022 union budget actually proposed for 400 Vande Bharat trains. 400 Vande Bharat trains in order to give a better outlook for Indian Railways. But we have been able to complete only 8 so far. And that is partially because, the Ahmedabad Mumbai railway corridor has taken a huge chunk of money. So we have not been able to do much justice to the Vande Bharat. But this time they'll be very careful on giving more importance to Vande Bharat, because a passenger's ride can be said entirely successful only if the train's speed is very high, and at the same time the journey time undertaken is halved. So the speed is increased 3 times and the journey time is reduced by half. That is how we can tell the railways is actually improving. Passengers are getting the actual benefit. So Vande Bharat will have to come up in the next stage, because they are semi-high speed trains. This will improve the existing condition. And as far as it goes, in the last round, we have heard is that 100 PM Gati Shakti. PM Gati Shakti, there was a huge plan in order for connections. And 100 PM Gati Shakti cargo terminals were announced. And by December, only 22 has been completed yet. 79 others have been given immediate approval, and we are expecting that will only commence their production work by next month. Not next month, at least by March last. So that's how the overall view on automobiles, railways, and roads goes so far. So this is with the first segment of our analysis.
So basically, Naveen, what we can figure out is that there is a huge, there were huge announcements being made last year, and we could expect some huge announcement in these sectors as this year as well. But what is happening is that, like all other years, like not the previous year, but the other years as well, we can see that there's a clear gap in terms of reality and the expectations what the government is trying to impose to the audience, right? Which is a key mishap or a feature of the Indian budget, most of the cases. So we might see the similar picture this year around as well. But what I feel is that the railways and the railways the railways focused mainly on the Vande Bharat and the Gati Shakti last year. There was more emphasis on these two aspects. But this one project, which is eating a lot of the share of the budget, is going to hamper this year's task as well. But I guess government should be more a bit cautious at this time on, so that they don't screw up the whole thing. They should revamp all those
Yeah,
things and work more towards the Vande Bharat and all those aspects. But as far as the roads are concerned, I guess
yeah, like
it's still on the brighter side when we compare it to the railways, right? So and so it's a lot of things going around in this sector. Even if the automobile sector is also concerned, there are several like EV chips, the chips factories have been set up, like is on the way to be set up in India. So we can figure out there is a huge development being going on, but the budget is moreover going to be on the aspect which will favor the government, the obviously the running government. Okay, so moving on from this, as you figured out that there were so many structural
yeah,
imbalances.
like uh, yeah, I would like to add a normal, like a general observation that I found is that, like, compared to the previous government, like prior to 2014, we had a lag in terms of development. Like it was apparent, like most of the things were stagnant, despite having a economic growth being recorded at double figures. When you look at the actual reality, things were not improving as much as they usually do. But right now, this government is actually doing some kind of changes, but there are white elephants in the room that is always there, and it the favoritism towards specific projects, specific cities, etc. will continue. It will not go, but there has to be some change. Like we can see some change because when you go towards the northern parts of India, there are some changes coming up. Like from the pre 2014 and to the post 2014, you can see a lot of projects coming up. Like this is not there much in the southern part of India, but let's hope for the best. That's what we can say. We can say only limited success. We can't tell an entire failure. some
Absolutely,
some things are there.
absolutely. We should consider all those things. And it's always the case with our economy that it's always concentrated to the some areas. So let's see if we see a change this year or not. So moving on, Naveen, we have the second sector. We have the other sector, which is also in a huge talks, which is the fintech sector. You know that this sector is having huge relevance in this, uh, like in the Indian economy, specifically after 2020 pandemic. So what you think that there could be more useful in this sector? What are the major advancements which is going to be there in this year's budget expectations that the government might do? Like earlier last year, we had several things. So which were key to the development of this fintech sector. So please, what is your take for this year, sir? This year of this for this sector?
as far as according to the observations, I felt that for MSMEs, the micro, small, medium enterprises were able to grow much with the help of fintech sector. And overall, the the growth, the news for technology, like even if people may not know the latest technical upgradations that are happening around them, technology as a word got imprinted in the minds of people much faster with the help of fintech. Like I can tell you a small statistic. It's this thing. Fintechs grew tremendously. Right now, they have actually reached to a capitalization of 16.3 lakh crores alone. And by 2025, it is going to triple. That much great is the level of fintech playing in our lives, because from a small bank opening an online app for all its payments feature to the very own Google Baba, the Google UPI system, Beam, etc., all of it has played an immense role in our life. Like when it goes to a cashless economy, fintechs are the first, stepping stone that is leading us to the bigger project there. And fintechs is going to be absolutely optimistic. There is nothing called failure seen in sight for them, because we are progressing in a more digital age, and digital age requires more strengthened finance and technical collaborations even further. So I'll enlighten on some basic facts, like with the addition of fintech in everyone's lives, we have seen that 40 percentage drop in manual KYC. Earlier, KYC updations are done usually by going to the bank, sitting there, and then discussing what are the procedures. A 40 percentage drop is seen all over India. All over India, 40 percentage drop. And we can also see when banks are creating a provision for helping people to update their KYC online, banks have a reduction, 85 percentage reduction in the overall costs. Like the amount of salaries they have to pay to the people, the amount of stalls, etc., they have to set up just for KYC updations, etc., the transaction costs, all of it, if you consider, there's an 85 percentage reduction when e-KYC just came in. And for fintech, the CAGR, the cumulated aggregate growth rate, we are expecting that it is going to increase by 40% in the next 10 years. And digital learning market, digital lending market, sorry, digital lending market. With the fintechs, the most obvious thing, if you have noticed, is that a lot of people from the undeserving classes, undeserving, why I'm saying is because they have not been able to gain much through their social status or economic status. These people, when they have some kind of apps or any other software mechanisms which help them improve their lives, they actually go to a stage where they borrow money from online brokers, etc. Though there is a high interest rate being charged on them, still they don't have to submit so many documents in order to get the loan. They're able to get that. And we have seen like quick money, etc. There are a lot of Chinese apps lending money to customers, if you have noticed, and it has been quite in the news for a long time. So the upcoming projection for digital lending market is valued at $350 billion by the end of 2023. And this is up by at least from 250 billion set in 2022. And the amount of loans being disbursed in the Indian lending market, just take India as a market and the number of loans being sent, from a small loan to a big loan, from a loan as low as 1,000 rupees to 50,000, 60,000 rupees being disbursed. If we can continue checking that, we are in for a shock. Because you know why? In 2017, when digital lending apps were slowly gaining traction, the valuation of that lending in Indian market stood at 11.4 trillion, just 11.4 trillion rupees. But now in 2022, it's 174 trillion. It's 174 trillion. It's a huge jump. That's that is going to happen, and this is going to increase by another 100 trillion in the next 4 years. And the advantage that we see over here is that the advantages we have noted over here is that adult population, India being a strong youth oriented population with the median age of 28 years, if you have noticed, is that 52% of the adult population is highly active on every digital platform. And if we analyze it further, we can see their fintech usage is standing at 36%, and banks applicability, etc., stands at 22%, and so on. So what are the opportunities that comes with this? What we can see is that personal banking, disbursing new loans, and ensuring credit cards are being registered. All this accounts for like an additional 58% jump in the coming year. And the upcoming opportunities that we can actually tap in is more on the central bank digital currency proposed by the RBI, going totally cashless. Next is green financing, encouraging more options for people to invest in projects that are more clean energy based, and at the same time reduce the climate change stress. The next is rural lending. Rural lending is very much important because it covers 60% of the rural population, and 60% of the total population that we have right now exists in rural areas. Fintech has a huge promising lead in those regions. And the government, in its previous budget, has also spoken heavily in favor of a proper fintech hub to be established. And they have established one under the name of Gujarat International Finance Tech City in the previous budget, and work is still underway. Finally, with regards to fintech sector, the actual expectations on what must be needed in terms of improvement. There are 4 areas that I would like to cover. First, I would like to speak a little about the creation of a corporate digital ID. Similar to the personal authentication ID that we have in the form of Aadhaar, all non-individual entities should face a similar mechanism in that manner, and a corporate digital ID is the best because all trust companies, etc., have a process of KYC verification, due diligence. There are lots of processes that are going manual and paper based till this date. A corporate digital ID is one stop solution for all of it. Not only that, it will reduce a huge amount of time being spent, and also there are immense cost benefits attached to it. In the growing years, we can notice there will be a speed of delivery and also rapid financial inclusion will also take place. The next I would like to highlight where fintech can do the most is partnering with respective credit assessment bureaus. Why is it essential? As I have mentioned just before, a lot of people in the rural regions do not have any formal credit history. That is because they may not have had the experience of holding enough income and engage in activities that actually generate income. At the same time, they are also able to repay any loans undertaken for those initiatives. When you approach banks, people from rural regions are always neglected because the lack of collateral is a huge issue in those areas. Fintech can solve this issue by partnering with credit bureau agencies in devising a mechanism wherein, for example, a person from the rural region is able to make payments on time with regards to his UPI ID. For example, if a payment request is sent by any particular merchant and a particular time limit is attached to it, he pays much ahead of the timeline, much before the timeline, and this boosts his credit rating. We can get an impression that the person makes all his payments on time. This also helps the credit bureau agencies, the banks, also to bring in more appropriate credit scoring models. And also, this is giving you a direct access to the formal credit sector for the unreserved and underserved segments of the society. And at the same time, the latter can also benefit from it. So this is a large thing I'm looking forward to in the upcoming budget discussion based on fintech. And the remaining two is very simple and they are more or less correlating with each other. One is digital financial literacy programs. This is very essential. We have a lot of people in the aging category, 65 and above, who are facing hardships with regarding digital financial literacy issues. They are not able to process what is being told. This can be alleviated to an extent when members of their family who are active users of any fintech products are able to learn via any courses or any notifications, announcements, detailed announcements explaining in such a lucid manner. So financial sector as a whole can benefit from it by fintechs engaging in collaboration with government to bring in more updates on how digital financial learning process could be more easier and fun at the same time from varied sections of the society. The last, which I would feel is more important, is that we need ample data centers, which means when we're processing a ton of information, we need a vast land dedicated for the creation of data centers that work 24/7 efficiently, because data centers are the key for maximum information gathering, pooling, and at the same time assessing. Not only that, it is also key for protecting one's own privacy in a much open world in the digital era. So this is a complex task but must be achieved. And the proposal for data centers was laid in October 2022, which means in the Union Budget 2022, it was already announced they will set up data centers by October 2022. But there are still shortcomings based on that. Right now, they have only established the tech city. Slowly, everything will come up much better than expected. And the budget 2023 could also provide more in terms of development of data by giving essential tax breaks for people who are paying proper in terms of all their dues with respect to each and every aspect of their life. A certain tax break could be given for them. And at the same time, for data centers, the companies that wish to put in tenders are also given a lucrative offer where they can acquire the land which they need at a subsidized price. And also, the companies that are coming in, pitching in for this data centers, they could be given more regulatory support, power subsidies, because power is very essential. 24/7, we can't afford any glitches or breaks, because power subsidies are not only once kind of an incentive, it is also an awareness that is that a nation, when it is proactive at any particular timing, it also shows that the digital advancement is improving, the reach is improving. And not only that, cyber security is heavily guarded. You cannot infiltrate just like that. It gives a kind of a chest thumping call to other nations that cyber security programs and infrastructure are strong enough. So hence, I hope budget 2023 will be able to allocate more in terms of this. And this sector is very, very optimistic, according to me. And
We can,
I would also, yeah.
yeah, and we can see that there could be some major advancements coming in this sector as well. And are looking forward to bringing those, like having those changes in reality. We can expect, we can propagate on these things, but this can only be true when it really is announced. Yeah. So
Um,
yeah, you were saying something. Naveen,
so
please complete it.
yeah, but like what I wanted to say is like technology as a whole, if you see, prior to 2010, prior to 2013, you keep prior to 2013, 30 years before that, I think around 1970s, 1980s, if I'm not wrong. Um, 1980s, keep it 1980s to 2010, those 30 years, technology took that much amount of time. Technical advancements took that much amount of time to create a dollar 100 billion mark. But from 2014 till 2023, we are seeing that $227 billion in revenues has been generated. Just in what you can say, 8 or 10 years, this has doubled. And not only that, contribution in GDP and 5 million direct employment opportunities. And women empowerment is also more here. More than one third of the total workforce involved in fintech and varied aspects of technology advancements have women as a core part of it. And not only this, we have been able to boost our services export by 51 percentage. That's the highest for every export claims we have made so far. So
Naveen,
this
your
is
video
good
is
in a fact
lagging.
because it creates a domino effect wherein
Your video is lagging a bit.
okay, okay. Pause 1 second. Okay. So what I was trying to mention is that there's a domino effect. A domino effect in terms of more innovation, a driving for more innovation, product development, and also immense boost for startup culture in India. Now, wherever you go, Startup India is a major initiative that is going on. And fintech is doing a lot in terms of that. From that digital talent nation, the idea we kept for a digital talent nation, now we are shifting to a more creative based economy that is in terms of making a more efficient digital products oriented nation. So the Atmanirbhar Bharat, etc., are all going good enough with respect to this.
All right. So, Naveen, I guess we should move on from this sector, and because I guess it does carry the aspects of several other sectors as well. But when you mentioned a very good, a very important sectoral example in the explanation of your fintech expectations, that is the MSMEs. I guess these MSMEs are doing a lot of contribution to the export side of India, as well as several other contributions is there from their end. So what according to you is, there are several schemes which were launched by the government for the upliftment of this sector. So what do you think that one of the schemes of government, that is the ECLGS scheme. So how do you think that this is going to help this MSMEs in stabilizing themselves, or how it is going to help the entire sector of MSMEs?
I'll begin from here. MSMEs, we can say it is actually a lifesaver. I think one of the biggest surprising lifesavers that we had so far was MSMEs. 33 percentage contribution to GDP, 120 million jobs. And the best aspect is like the most heart touching aspect is the grassroots level development. Whatever is it there today, the wealth generated has reached to the grassroots levels. So MSMEs have done immensely a lot. And I will come to the ECLG scheme. So so far I would like to also specify a little more data point. Right now, there's a loan market for MSMEs. It's improving. Earlier, loans being disbursed to MSMEs was like very frugal. They would give banks were not so sure how they can actually give this to us because there's no collateral at that point of time. and the repayment doubts, etc. It kind of plagued the bankers, but government made a strict direction saying that money must be dispersed to these people so that they are also able to create something of their own and are able to market it. So the loan market has registered 18.5 percentage growth from 2021 till 2023. 18.5 percentage growth. Like in the starting, it was like 35.4 lakh crores. And now we are seeing that it is going to touch again a 50.6 lakh crore by the end of 2023. So there's a mix of fintech, and at the same time digital lending, etc. All of it has contributed to it, and MSMEs is strong enough right now. And why ECLGS? ECLGS, I'll expand the acronym. It's Emergency Credit Line Guarantee Scheme. It is a scheme provided by the government when the particular initiatives or particular schemes, when they start to fail or are recording losses for factors unknown, the government steps in and ensures that they provide much required amounts that can stabilize that particular sector. So that is Emergency Credit Line Guarantee Scheme. And what led to the rise in Emergency Credit Line Guarantee Scheme? There are certain issues before that. So let me speak in line with respect to the issues. As I had mentioned in the starting, the problem of getting credit on time is a big issue for MSMEs. Bankers are skeptical, and they are very frugal also in that approach. So government must bring in more policy driven and incentive oriented expansions. Like both the sides must get benefited. So that kind of things must come up. So in order to ease the line of credit, the next is supply chain management. Products managed and manufactured by the MSMEs, when they reach the end market, it turns out to be much costlier than expected. So a proper infrastructure must be set so that the logistics part does not lag behind, and also a strong payment system. A proper payment system must be ensured, and more capital, like what you can say, more allocative capital as a incentive should also be given. And one thing I have also noticed is that MSMEs, if they're included in the production linked incentive scheme, it will also help them boost more exports, because currently we have only 16 or 17 sectors involved in the PLI scheme. And people who are in the PLI scheme, they get a lot of export subsidies. And MSMEs is one crucial element that actually receives it. So since they were not being able to include in the PLI, they introduced the ECLGS as a SOP or an immediate recall measure for that. And another thing is MSMEs can flourish more if the particular 90 days due for declaring NPA, non-performing assets, is shifted to 180 days. So if you declare an asset NPA in 90 days, it's going to be hard for the MSMEs, because they have to reach out to a lot of people within the group in order to pool in and get in. So if it's extended to 180 days, they're able to, get ample time, more than ample time, in order to plan and come back and then, prevent NPS being caused, because NPS are an added burden for the government year on year. And if the government itself decides to give a 180-day waiver, it's going to work wonders for the MSMEs. Now, coming to your question, ECLGS scheme, the Emergency Credit Line Guarantee Scheme has seen that it's like 3.67 lakh crores were disbursed on an emergency, important need-based issues. And this happened due to two reasons. The faster release of claims, as the number of claims being filed were more during the COVID era, 2020-21, and its effects in 2022. More number of claims were filed, and at the same time, we saw that there was certain ceiling rates which were kept for MSMEs. It was also relaxed. So that is also one advantage, wherein MSMEs were able to survive. And ECLGS became a true lifesaver when they actually saved the livelihood of 6 crore families. 6 crore families means if you take it to a small unit, per family, 4 people were able to remain in the particular profession. They were not going unemployed, they were not being left debt ridden. Just because the stabilizing amount came in, 6 crore families were saved, and 14.6 lakh MSME initiatives were also saved. This is a huge plus because and it's something that is really needed. They prevented, in more realistic terms, if we say 1.7 crore jobs, 1.7 crore jobs were stopped from being terminated entirely. The biggest beneficiaries out of all of this ECLG scheme we can see is that Kirana shops, small Kirana shops were able to gain more, and at the same time food processing plants etc were also able to get more impetus because when they got that stabilizing amount, it not only reduced the cost involved in logistics, they were also getting a small kind of subsidy for producing more, a production subsidy. So that is a huge advantage that I've noticed. And under the ECLGS scheme, we can see that Gujarat, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, and Uttar Pradesh are the biggest beneficiaries. Biggest beneficiaries to the extent that 2.82 lakh crores were dispersed. And commercial banks were able to disburse like around 2.46 lakh crores out of it. And these states were able to reduce like around 1/6 of the loans, almost to 1/6 of the loans in becoming NPAs. So they reduced it to around 1/6, and 1/3 of the loans taken were availed by businesses other than MSMEs. Since certain terms and conditions were not clearly specified, large businesses also came in and claimed benefits. That's a huge leakage that they will have to solve as the time passes by, and this budget has to immediately address those kind of things. Now, as far as urgent action required, now there must be a separate dedicated scheme for promotion of low input costs, higher liquidity, and also ensuring better financial inclusion by offering small firms with affordable financial products. Like when it comes to innovation friendly schemes, tax breaks, and also when they are starting up something, they get a rebate, etc., like that for 3 years. That will help them a lot. And also educating a lot of people from the public. Like when a lot of youngsters are becoming unemployed nowadays, we can see that companies are laying off a lot of people. So they could be attractively brought back to the MSMEs in such a manner that the level of skills that they have could be used in these particular segments. So that will be a huge bonus for MSMEs in the coming year, and also the ECLGS scheme to flourish even further. I will just take a small example from the textile sector. If you have noticed, 4 days back, Tamil Nadu government applied for the ECLGS scheme, saying that the textile industry in Tamil Nadu is undergoing losses now. Is undergoing losses, and they actually need 5% interest subsidy on export credit because of the fact that they had a lot of amount being spent on raw materials. The Russia-Ukraine war has actually plunged people into an economic despair over there, and they were not able to come up much better than expected. Like in 2019, Tamil Nadu recorded a huge growth. Like the textile sector under the MSME program, it recorded huge length of success. But the Russia-Ukraine war, clubbed with COVID-19 pandemic, it has not only made life hard for them. Cotton prices have increased Like every month in the last 12 years, cotton prices are increasing at least by 10-12%, which is becoming very hard for them. And raw material, when it comes to sourcing of raw material, the water intensiveness of the crop, excessive fertilizer usage, genetic modification properties, etc., are also plaguing them. So they are again required to spend more money on acquiring raw materials, along with the additional things that I've mentioned. So they reached to them, and they also said one important and interesting factor: European Union is the largest purchaser when it comes to textiles from Tamil Nadu, and 40% of the summer goods, like the jackets, the hoodies, etc., all winter wear that is required for European Union, citizens of the European Union, 40% of it is sourced from Tamil Nadu, and the chief contributor of it is from Tirupur, a place in Tamil Nadu called Tirupur, which is famous for its ultra high quality of knitwears. They have actually requested now an import duty must be reduced. They have gone so far to the extent they have asked for a reduction in the import duty, and also they have again went on requested the government to reduce the anti-dumping duty on viscose staple yarn. So viscose staple yarn is produced abundantly in China. They have the largest area under cultivation over there. So all the micro segments in China involved with the textiles are able to grow further there because they have a lot of raw material available there. But in India, we are forced to import it because in India, the cultivation of VSYs is very limited, and we need to import more of them. So the request put forward just before the budget is to reduce or remove the entire anti-dumping duties so that much issues do not plague them further. And more updates regarding on how textiles under MSMEs, if we feature them further, is that if textiles as a segment under MSMEs can flourish, it could be due to certain factors that must be considered even further immediately. That is, sign free trade agreements with the European Union and US even more compared to what we have signed as of now. We have to sign more agreements. Apparel shipments must also be improved. Right now, we are struggling to compete with Bangladesh and Cambodia. We are finding it very hard because Bangladesh and Cambodia are utilizing a lot of tariffs, like a lot of tariffs. They are getting it in favor of them, and this is because the US has registered them as developing nations. They have removed it for India this time. So India will have to export things to them like other major powers, economic powers, and it does not work in the benefit of India. So they must negotiate more for better free trade agreements with these two groups. Next is PM Mitra scheme. So PM Mitra scheme is a mega integrated textile region and apparel. Currently, the situation that we face is spinning is in one part of the country, weaving is in another part of the country, processing is in another part of the country. Or even if it is in a single state, it will be either on the north, south, or the eastern part of the state. So the logistics involved is going to be the white elephant of the entire initiative because logistics could be very hard. Imagine what if you get an actual hub dedicated for that, like spinning, weaving, processing, all in the same location, just just under a few kilometers, like how we say an infotech park. Why not a mega integrated textile park scheme? So that all these three processes which require this much amount of perfection in every stage could be done at a single location and could be assembled much faster. So PM Mitra scheme said about 7 integrated textile parks to be brought in, and they are yet to bring it entirely. The initiative is supposed to bring it entirely, and we are hoping that PM Mitra, as the time passes by, they'll be able to develop more. And lastly, what I've felt more is that there should be a proper cotton price stabilization scheme so that a 5% interest subvention is given, and also places where a 25% tax structure is there, it is again brought back to 5%. This is going to be a lifesaver for the industry. And when it comes to repayment of credit, rather than keeping a period of 3 months, if it is extended to 9 months, manufacturers get more time to create better products, market them, and slowly pay back all the credit and the interest upon the credit much on a timely basis. This is one way we can actually save this sector and the MSME fraction as a whole. And there is also one more suggestion that I feel must be considered, because right now there is a 12% GST tax structure on textiles. And as of now, given the instability with respect to the sector, the 12% is going to be a big problem. If it is either 5% or 0%, it is going to help the sector revive back to its old stature. And time and again, it will bounce back. That's what I hope, if this could be brought in the upcoming budget discussion. And that sums up all with regards to my analysis on the budget 2023. And I would like to thank Riansh for actually giving me an opportunity to be a part of this pre-budget discussion. Thank you so much, Riansh, and thank you so much, the team of Economics Stan, for facilitating such a great journey through the online mode.
Okay, so Naveen, it was very good to, good way of depicting the expectations aspect to it. And you blended the things in such a way that it covered all those aspects of it, be it the technical aspects or be it the the outlook of it, like how it turned out to be earlier and how it might turn out to be this time around, right? So, and I guess these sectors are going to have so much of happenings going around in this specifically in this year, because several things have stabilized, but there are several areas which needs to be stabilized as well. And one such, when it comes to the term stabilization, one such sector which comes to my mind is the health sector, which is on a very instabilized state, right? And there were several comments being made by the experts, which I would just cover it in brief, that they figured out that this should be the health sector, in the health, basically the health facility should be considered as a fundamental right, like other rights, such as right to equality and other things. Because we saw there was a huge gap in terms of accessing the healthcare facilities, specifically during the COVID times, right? And we can figure out that there is a need to get these health facilities accessible to all the sections, not only to the big higher sections of the society. Because uh, there might be a situation in the pandemic that where the people from the higher sections also didn't get the access to the medical facility, but this was the ratio was very less. The poor people were unable to even reach to the hospitals, right? So this, considering all those things, there is a huge need to make this whole health facilities equitable and accessible to all those people. And for the same region, there are so many experts which is of the view that it should be made a fundamental right, as well as we might see a increase in the expenditure increase in the budget allocation to the healthcare sector from the previous year to around about of 20 to 30%, which in itself a big number, considering the fact that the last year's budget, 2022 and 2023 budget, it has an increase of 16% from the previous budget. So we are observing a clear pricing trend in the healthcare sector. But the question still looms around, right? Is the healthcare facility still accessible to all? Uh, Despite of spending a lot of money, Despite a lot of increase allocation of budget towards the healthcare sector, we can't see the equitable accessibility to the healthcare facilities. So I guess considering all those things, there are several areas in the healthcare sector which needs to be improved. India might need to bring in so much of manpower, might need to you know uh, keep intact their manpower so that there is not brain drain. So there are several aspects when it comes to the healthcare sector which needs to be covered up by the government. The I expect that there is a huge increase in terms of budget allocation to the healthcare sector, which would come up, and there might be several other schemes which might be coming along with the Ayushman Bharat scheme, which is for the digital health. So there is a huge need to bring advancements in the digital health facilities as well, which we know it popularly as a telehealth facility. So these are the areas which I believe that might get injections from the government's budget this year onwards. So what I believe is that this all discussion should summarize the expectations of all the sectors, like not all, if not all, then all the more preferred sectors this time around for the government. So we can figure out that this is the overall picture of the expectations of the budget 2023-24, and we can see some major advancements in the several sectors as we mentioned in our conversation. So Naveen, any uh, last take on the budget's expectation? What is your final outlook of it, like a summary if you want to put in?
I will try to be optimistic on it because, saying that this particular thing is a mega success, mega failure, does not happen. Like, even if a lot of proposals happen, like healthcare, like as you mentioned, healthcare is a very important sector, and that cannot be ruled out entirely. It cannot be ruled out because given that a lot of people among the population do not have access to affordable healthcare, and India with a population of 8 billion, this is going to be a huge concern. So healthcare will need even more investments in it. Yeah, they'll have to learn from how nations like Costa Rica and European Union, etc., have invested in healthcare so much that citizens are very aware, like, health is more important than all of this. So as from that point of view, healthcare is essential and cannot be ruled out. Other than that, what I feel is budget 2023, other than these sectors, we'll have to wait and watch. Like, we have to see whether any disinvestment schemes or anything is brought up newly. So far, disinvestment will be a very small projection of the total events laid out. I think that's the whole wrap of it. But let's wait for the budget to come out, and
Yeah,
after that, we'll be able to get a clear idea what is the agenda of the government for the next full year just before the elections and what they have to prove for the people of this nation.
absolutely. So we'll get the budget today, and we are looking forward to the reality of it. We have covered the expectations, and we are looking forward to the reality of it. Thank you so much, guys, for being with us.